doing both.
Hello and welcome. This is the Market Wrap. I am Agam Vakil. We have seen global indices bear down on our own benchmark indices, with the Nifty closing down by as much as 180 points. It's nearly lost out at 13,600. In fact, it did go below that mark on an intraday basis, and we only have two gainers on the Nifty 50 index as against, well, I would say 47 losers. Of course, one remained unchanged on Power Grid, and as you can see here, Sun Pharma was the only one standing out, and this was also only largely on account of a bout of short covering. Indiabulls Housing Finance, Maruti Suzuki, Tech Mahindra, Bajaj Finserv, Tata Motors, all of them losing out below 4%, and HCL Technologies, Adani Ports not too far behind. On the broader markets, the picture wasn't very different. Well, we had less than one gainer for four losers on the NSE 500. Well, some very unusual names standing out in gainers, and very few too. Few and far between. I'd say Vakrangi, Sonata Software advancing by over 4%. But after that, we haven't seen too much. So Great Eastern Shipping Company, Sun TV, Aster DM, Tech Solutions advancing by 3%. On the losing end, as one might imagine, the momentum was stronger. Bliss GVS Pharma down nearly 10%, Navkar Corp, GVK Power, NCC, South Indian Bank, Equitas Holding and Muthoot Finance as well, all declining substantially in trade. What do we make of these cues? This is going to be an important day, perhaps. Let's get in our markets editor, Neeraj Shah, who can give us a perspective. Well, Neeraj,
I don't think anybody can.
I reckon, well, actually, yeah, I'm not going to guess. I'm just going to leave it up to you.
No, just a couple of pointers, Agam. One is US markets were shut yesterday.
Yeah.
They start trading today. What happens to the Huawei CFO case is a moving picture, and I think that could have some role to play in how the markets perceive the trade relations are between US and China.
Right.
I think it's all a matter of perception right now as opposed to what actually would happen. A bunch of people out there have gone out and said that if the case is very strong, US won't blink. But hey, I ask, does anybody know what Donald Trump will do tomorrow?
Yeah.
So, but that's a bit of a black box, to be honest. But from an our markets perspective, I think there is also a very interesting twist in that we'll have the exit polls coming out tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Right.
Now, for anybody who's gone short on the markets a couple of days ago, is sitting well in the money. The question mark in everybody's minds would be that will the markets have a big reaction?
Right.
Could they have a big reaction to either direction on the exit polls? And is it wise to leave your profits in the open if you are sitting on profits on a day like that?
Right.
So there could be maybe. I mean, I do not know if it will happen or no, but frankly, a question mark to all the traders that we did today, and all of them seem to suggest that if I was sitting on money, I would probably take some money off the table.
Sure.
So interesting next 24 hours. Tonight's US market performance could well have a big bearing on what we do tomorrow as well on Asia and the Indian markets. But tomorrow an interesting day of trade, and then Monday and Tuesday even more interesting, because Monday there will be a reaction.
Absolutely.
And Tuesday we'll have the actual results coming out.
Right.
And then Tuesday evening is Brexit. So whatever. So it's an interesting next 2-3 days. Well, maybe stay nimble-footed.
Right. Well, Neeraj, thank you for that perspective.
Thanks,
These are interesting times indeed, and of course, the next 4 or 5 sessions are going to be very, very crucial to determine the direction for not just the Indian markets, possibly global markets. So we'll be watching out for that. But what are our technical analysts telling us about the levels that we need to keep an eye on? This is what they're saying. Listen in.
The market still has some more residual correction left, probably somewhere around the ballpark of 10,490 to 10,440. That's my correction price objective. But the longer term trend, you have to be very conscious. The markets have turned around, and I've been saying that since the beginning of November, the markets are heading for record highs. And even that was the case even in the markets where anticipated to go below 10,000 mark. And the long term trend is intact. Expect 12,400 to 12,600 by middle of 2019.
Precariously poised towards very important support zones. So on the downside, 26,150 is a very important support for Bank Nifty. If we see the breach of this level, I think there could be more downside pressure on the Bank Nifty. But I think right now one can the shorts can take the money off the table and wait for a little bit of clarity on whether we are going to hold above this or whether we are going to break above the 26,150 mark that I just mentioned. Why this is so important? Because the 50-day moving average and the 100-day moving average both are coinciding around the 26,150 zone. So I think that's going to act as a very important support.
Well, let's shift focus to the power lending sector, and here we do have more updates with respect to PFC and REC, and we have Yatin Mota who's joining us to give us more details on the same. Yatin, what do we have?
Well, both of these stocks are quite active, Agam, and today, as per the PTI report, there is a cabinet meet which will most likely approve a transaction which involves PFC buying out the government stake in REC. Now, remember, post the CPSE ETF issuance, the Government of India is left with close to 52.5% odd stake in REC, and at the current market capitalization, at the current market price, that is worth nearly 10,000 crores, and that is the kind of divestment the government is looking. Of course, PFC would be in focus because they will have to fund this deal. Given the fact that there is low cash on the balance sheet for PFC, they would most likely look at raising debt, similar to what ONGC did when it acquired the government stake in HPCL. Of course, the key issues that we'll be watching out for would be how really does the market treat the holding company discount for PFC when it buys REC's stake. Also the leverage, how much debt will PFC raise to fund this transaction, and more importantly for the minority shareholders, there are two questions. Number one is the management control of REC, because for ONGC it has not yet been classified as a promoter of HPCL despite the request. So there is ongoing tussle between the two managements. And number two, and the most important thing, is the open offer. ONGC got an exemption when it bought over government stake in HPCL. It will be interesting to see whether or not PFC gets an exemption from SEBI with respect to the stake purchase in PFC. So these are the few points we'll be watching out for. Of course, also for the government decision as to how really are they taking this process ahead. Right. Yatin, thanks for joining us and getting us those details. So there you have it. Those will continue to be in focus. But we also have a few buzzing stocks. One of them, of course, is on the back of earnings. And we have Sharad Dubey, who's now joining us to give us an update on the same. Sharad?
Yes, Agam. The first stock I've picked up is Muthoot Finance. Of course, the Q2 results have come, but the numbers were way below the estimates, and the impact of Kerala floods did factor in. So basically, when we see the chart, the stock, after the news had come, crashed at more than almost 10%, but it ended in the day at around, short of around 5%. So basically, the numbers, if I say, is net interest income did take a knockdown of around 4.6% at around 1104 crore rupees versus 1168 crores. The net profit was up marginally at around 8% at 483.8 crore rupees versus 445.7 crores. The consolidated loan AUM was up by almost 21% at 35,956 crore rupees versus 29,646 crores. Apart from this, one more thing I noticed was the asset quality, which had worsened for its arm, Belstar Investment and Home Finance arm. If you see, the GNPA percentage stood at 0.78 for Muthoot Finance and 0.88 for Belstar Investment. Apart from this, the second stock which I have picked up is Aurobindo Pharma stock. The stock reacted really sharply on the news that the media reports suggested that the company was named in a lawsuit. So basically, if we see in the intraday chart, the stock has fallen by almost 8.6%. So basically, the company was named in a lawsuit in US for contamination of iserbertan active ingredient. So basically, this ingredient is used to lower your blood pressure, but later on in the day, the company clarified to the exchanges that it has not yet received the legal notice. The third stock which I have picked up is Sonata Software, which was up by almost 4%, its highest levels in a week. So basically, the main news was that the company had signed a definitive agreement to acquire Australia-based scalable data systems. This will actually enhance the Microsoft 365 Dynamics profile. So Agam, these three stocks were there, which I was...
Fair enough, Sharad. Thanks for joining us and getting us those details. Some of those other buzzing stocks which are also in focus. But at this point in time, we are heading into the markets with some amount of weakness tomorrow, of course, as being the final day of the trading week. And we'll watch out for more cues coming in. But with that, it's a wrap on the markets, but lots more lined up, so stay tuned to Bloomberg.